on this fine Friday back to our regular schedule. I am still your host and always will be Matt Scott over here, and you're watching Inside Fnatic's Brush, going over Spring Split Week 3 that ended the regular split for the second third of um, the season already. It's going by pretty fast. We are end of March, soon to be beginning of April, as we're going into the first part of playoffs week one, the first part of best of threes. And we definitely had a very interesting ending to the LEC, where everyone sort of exchanged the first place, and we have a I don't know if you want to call stacked top group and and the rest, but it was definitely a very interesting final few games into the last day of the split. We'll talk about Fnatic there. Quote unquote first place, very controversial, very debatable on how the first place was taken. Still first place at the end of the day, which wasn't the case since 2018 of summer. So we'll definitely take that as fans. We'll have our regular episode of The Focus, which changed at the last minute as we had the recent announcement of Hidden uh, joining Fnatic. Well, more like officially being presented as part of Fnatic, since from what's been explained, he was with the team at the since the beginning of spring. And we'll talk about our regular predictions, obviously short ones, as we only have 4 games going into the first week. But still, it'll be nice to discuss those elements. But jumping right into it, LEC. And standings are as follows: Fnatic first, Vitality second, G2 third, Team Heretics fourth, BDS fifth, Giant X sixth, Mad Lions Koi seventh, SK Gaming eighth, and the final 2 teams that have not made it with Rogue and again Carmine Corp 10th. Obviously, Carmine Corp still questioning their changes of Winter only making Yamato bite the bullet at the end of the split. Um, and it did feel already at the time that this was really going to be the solution. That the issues really lied within the team in itself, and when you don't have the right pieces that are playing together correctly and who are not even communicating when they're playing crucial roles into the team's communication. If you keep the same elements, then changing coach definitely won't and didn't solve the issue. On top of that, um, you have to ask yourself, how is Carmine Corp going to head into the summer split? Do you just sandbag the whole season because there's a very tiny percent that you can head into Worlds now, apart from making it first into summer split and qualifying into the regional finals? Then it's pretty much over for Carmine. And if it's just to have a good showing at the end by bringing in new players and not being sure that you're going to be able to keep those players going into the next season. Just look at Fnatic getting in Trimby. They managed to turn it around, and in the end, for whatever reason, obviously Trimby didn't stay. It can be, the same issue, the same, outcome for the same reason or for a different reason. So you can never know. Might be better to sandbag it for them. As for the rest of the LEC, what's a bit surprising, especially on that final day, was that the first place just changed hands constantly. It was really about confirming your spot at the top. And with the schedule that the team had, and especially looking at how week two ended, you really thought that the likes of Team Heretics, G2, and Fnatic were the ones who were gonna, sweep their week 2-1, 3-0 very easily, and that therefore we wouldn't have any changes in the stand, knowing that one loss for either of the teams would impact their positioning severely because of the strength of victory, which sort of makes the difference between multiple teams who have the same score, and instead of applying the head-to-head, which would be only for two teams that are on the same spot, then you take the strength of victory, which is what are the strongest teams that you've defeated during the split, and there's a scoring that is established depending on these teams and their ranking. It just happened to be that obviously Fnatic, out of the four teams that were at the top, sorry, BG2 and Vitality, and therefore they take the first spot despite Team Heretics being there. But the way it happened, basically, for those who might have missed it, but I'm pretty sure I think you've caught on to it, is that first game of the day, Team Heretics versus Giant X, because of the previous days and the defeats of each team, it really felt like Team Heretics was gonna stay at the top. They start with 2 wins, whereas Fnatic and G2 fumble a loss within the first 2 days, and Giant X is a bottom of the table team. So you're saying, Team Heretics, congratulations, you've locked in your first place. Giant X beat Team Heretics, and now it's just about the other teams securing their spot for first place. Fnatic fumbles extremely hard in a terrible game, which I will mention in our Fnatic segment later on, against Mad Lions, and the door is wide open, because then G2 has the space to then lock in first, and they fumble against Vitality. Now, I will say this. These games have really been more about the teams winning against their opposition and rather the losing team giving away the game. Like, it wasn't a massive throw. It was each team really won their game by themselves. And therefore it makes it very hard to sort of establish an exact ranking of what's happening within the league. Well, that's nothing. That's just my cup falling down, but that's fine. Yeah, it becomes very hard to establish a ranking because you're just looking at all these teams beating each other, and it's hard to understand who's really strong, who's going to bounce back better going into the playoffs, knowing that obviously in the playoffs you're looking at best of threes. So there's a bit more space for teams to sort of fumble a first game and then come back the next 2 games. So I think for the first time in a long time, I'm not really too sure at what we're looking at in terms of actual strengths here. We've got Mad Lions and Giant X that are looking to improve recently. BDS is on the same trend. Team Heretics looked to be the team at the top until they lost that last game. Fnatic and G2 really dropped in form, and Vitality on their side, they're starting to show what I call the sort of Mac trend, which is really his capacity of improving a team by his sheer presence, and obviously the training, but his philosophy of the game, and training players. And I think personally that teams like Vitality and maybe Mad Lions are really going to cause problems going into the playoffs. Now we're looking at our bracket on the right side here. We have sort of the top group. We've got Fnatic and Giant X G2 versus Mad Lions, Vitality versus SK, and Heretics versus BDS. And for those who have a good memory, you'll know this is to one game almost the same bracket as it were for Winter, with only Mad Lions and Giant X swapping, but they're on the same side of the bracket, both of them. So, you know, I don't know really what to make of it. I think that Fnatic getting GX definitely helps them out. G2 versus Mad Lions will be an interesting one, and will be a test to see how well G2 are doing after their drop in form. And the rest, is more like middle bottom of the pack, with I think a very interesting game, which is going to be Team Heretics Team BDS game, where we'll really find two teams on their individual strengths and see if the trend of Heretics continues to go upwards, or if they get caught up by BDS. But obviously, we'll talk about it a bit more as we go into our predictions at the end. But let's talk about our boys and the very disappointing week that we've had going into playoffs. It's a bit worrisome, I would say. Now, we did have Fnatic and the staff tell us that some players are still sick from the latest Legends in action, especially Razork was with a blanket over his shoulders. He was saying that, he was almost throwing up before a game. His mind was very hazy, so I think that we can forgive to some extent the level of performance. What was a bit annoying is that the fundamentals that were showcased in week 2 completely disappeared into week 3. Even in terms of draft and the BDS game, we kind of, we're a bit cocky from the draft, in my opinion, where we really gave them what they wanted and made it easy for them to play. The game against SK was also a very close one, and it took, in my opinion, an MVP Jhin performance. And overall, I think, Jhin has probably been the most consistent player in the split so far. And that, I can't remember if I mentioned it on the previous episode, but there was this discussion of Jhin just being the good player without having to be, the flashy player. Like, he doesn't have to go do something crazy to be efficient. Like, the way he plays is good enough for him to really be a plus, an advantage for the team. But here, on his Alistar combos, his push, flash, knock up combos, amazing, really amazing. Everyone agreed to give him MVP, and that was really sort of his statement game. And I think he's sending a bit of a message on that one, saying, "This is what I'm capable of doing. I'm not a Nautilus merchant or rail merchant. I've got it on Alistar as well." And personally, that makes me very excited. That makes me very excited to see what he delivers going forward, because he's showing a bit of that diversity, and it feels like if you open him on the Alistar, he sort of makes the plays and takes over the game by himself during the team fights. The only issue is that afterwards on the Mad Lions game, it really felt like this was the game to win. Not only for the reasons I mentioned previously, which were to stay at the top of the ranking, but to say, hey, Mad Lions is bottom ranked team. We have to beat these teams, and we got absolutely annihilated. Pentakill from Supa's Zeri, which really feeds into his own narrative of saying he's the best ADC. But I mean, the entire team played poorly, and I think that's the issue: is that if you have your main man Razork not being 100%, well, the communication, the synergy, the synchronization on the map really fills off. And even in the game against SK, which was the only game that Fnatic won, there were multiple issues, in my opinion. One of them, obviously, is Oscar getting 1v1 by Irrelevant again, and it really feels like Irrelevant is Oscar's kryptonite, unfortunately, and I don't know what it will take for him to really overcome this player, but it really feels like when he's in lane against him, it really feels like he's powerless, unfortunately. But that's just like one element of that game. The other elements were, I felt the over TPing on a side lane to stop Irrelevant, and Irrelevant just making Fnatic waste so much time with his sustain by ulting, by getting his enraged Q, and being able to keep 2 to 3 players on his side of the map, while the rest of his team can just put pressure, get vision, potentially force a Baron. And if we're being honest, like the fact that SK wasn't able to get the Baron, and instead Fnatic reversed it and took the Baron away from them, I don't think relies solely on Fnatic's performance here or their strat. I think it's really SK just not knowing one to two, getting a bit scared, and instead completely misplaying the situation and giving Fnatic a massive advantage. Because after they get the Baron, they get the kill on DOS, and they go home with a nice bit of gold to spend and take over the game. And so, while obviously I want to say that illness affected a lot the team's performance as a whole, I really hope that the week we have here helps us bring back the fundamentals, continues to work on the mid game, and in the end, it was really a cause of individual sickness within the team that caused. Because we're looking at this week, obviously the players are not happy, the fans are questioning Fnatic's ability to rekindle with the trophy when it started so well during the split, and Fnatic does end up first, and thanks to them, thanks to the other teams as well, who beat the top players, the top teams, while being at the bottom. So it's a bit of a mix and match here, but there's definitely something to look into in the fact that the players did put in the work during the split. Illness came in, seems to have affected a lot of players. We're gonna put it on that. We're gonna look forward now and see if the improvements are made. I'm staying very positive about it. I believe that Fnatic's gonna be able to make it. I think the best approach here, well, not necessarily the best approach, I would say my expectations, and I think for Fnatic to be able to go forward as much as possible, is go into their first game against GX, beat them 2-0 very cleanly, good performance from everyone in the team, and I don't want necessarily one of the players to perform, I wouldn't say poorly, but less than the rest of the team. I think the performance needs to be uniform across all players, and whoever gets MVP gets MVP, but it doesn't really matter. Facing GX 2-0, that's what Fnatic needs to deliver at the end. and then it's about looking what performances the other teams are doing. But I think this will be the best sign for us as fans, and as well for the players themselves to regain confidence and know that they're back at the top. Personally, so we'll definitely be looking forward to that on Saturday, 8 p.m. European Central Time. It's going to be a banger. It's going to be a banger. GX are definitely there to fight. And most importantly, we have in our ranks Hidden or Hidon. I don't know how it's meant to be pronounced. But we have Excel slash Giant X, former coach, who's been part of the Fnatic staff since beginning of this split. And that's a great sign for multiple reasons, in my opinion. First of all, is that it shows that Fnatic has been very serious this year and wanting to reach the top by adding not only more staff but quality staff. Hidden was head coach with GX, and you could think that maybe there's a bit of a challenge, maybe of a hurdle, having to bring someone who was previously a head coach into a team where there's already a head coach established with Nightshare. But I guess they made it work, and he's been I guess a crucial part of Fnatic's success during the spring split and helping them reach the first place. From what's been told on the Fnatic announcement, is that since he's joined the team, he's been working with them remotely, a bit like Shaves used to do. Maybe he's replacing that Shaves role on the more strategic side. They've been talking about him helping with not only adapting to the meta, try to innovate around the picks. He's doing a bit of positional coaching, which I think is great with the players that we have right now. And a crucial part, which was also really debated, is itemization. And those are really key points, I think, here that the team needed coming from Winter, which really filling the gap of the issues that they were facing to really be at their top level and maximize their performances going forward. So I think it's a great announcement, and there's a lot to be excited with personally. For some reason, and I don't know why, I don't know if I should say I was expecting it, but I was definitely hoping that when he announced his when his departure, from GX was announced, that potentially we could bring him into the team. I wasn't sure in what capacity, because again, coming in as not a head coach, but helping out the team, and that's a great announcement. So will he continue to be remote? Will he come to the Berlin offices? I think I mean, I don't know how they work, obviously, but I think it would be really interesting for him to be on location. I think it's always better to help the players, especially if he's helping with positional performances. I am a believer that the moment you are on site, there's more impact when you're talking to the players in terms of assimilating the information and applying it going forward. So maybe we'll see him on camera in the next best of 3, because obviously he is facing his former team, Giant X. So I don't know what the relation is, obviously, between him and Giant X. If there's some bad blood, maybe a bit of resentment on his side of not having had really the time to work long enough with the team. I know obviously he brought in a few changes in his final split of 2023 when he brought in Abadaga and Peach, which he's the reason why Excel became really competitive in summer, went all the way to finals, and helped them get a spot in the regional finals, despite Excel being at the bottom two for winter and spring. So a bit of a parallel experience with Fnatic, and Hidden and Nightshare did arrive at the same time, and it happened that we got Nightshare and they got Hidden. But if I recall correctly, both of them were considered for both organization. So it's quite funny that in the end we end up with both of those coaches. What I liked though is I don't know if that was a little sting at his former organization, but Hidden obviously on his announcement had this to say: happy to join Fnatic, to be in a team that knows what success looks like, to work with players that play to win, and obviously saying that he was happy with being first in the regular split, but not really happy on how it was done. Appreciates the support, and I invite you guys to follow him, send him your support, show that you're happy to have more people within the staff, because you guys have been asking for it. You've been screaming it, typing it, saying, "Oh, there's not enough." With the departure of Hiva and Shaves from the team, people were asking for more, and obviously when there's only Nightshare and Gax left from the previous staff, people were not happy, pointing the finger at this element as to the reason, or one of the reasons I should say, why Fnatic didn't end in finals in winter. It's, if I have to give my opinion here on this subject, do I really think that more staff means immediate more success? Not necessarily. You look at Carmine Corp, they had like 10 members on camera in the coaching staff, and they've done twice 10th. And they had a bunch of coaches. They had previously, they had Yamato, they had Steak, they had Rehan. I know there's like one or two extra people, and I think doing a comparison, like a one-to-one comparison of the more staff you have, the more performance you're gonna get, it's completely bullshit. I think you need to have the right people at the right place, and I think with the role that each person have between Nightshare, Gax, and Hidden, we're definitely in a much more comfortable place this time. The second element for me is that it shows that Fnatic's been very serious as to what they want to do going forward. As I mentioned earlier, they're investing, they're bringing in the right pieces, and they're definitely focused, and they believe that this roster is the roster to do it. So really excited about all of this happening at the same time. Definitely makes me want to watch the Giant X game even more, to see if we're really improving, if we're showing dominance going into this first best of 3, because I think that's really what's going to determine the rest of the playoffs going forward. So yeah, hopefully Hidden is the key to success, and we will see the growth within the team as they go forward in the rest of the split. Just before we jump into our predictions, I just want to mention, so let's see if I can find it. There we go. For those of you who don't know yet, there's a giveaway that's happening since beginning of this week, going or ending, I should say, tomorrow after the Fnatic game, where I'm giving away a Fnatic jersey 2024 version, so the one that I'm wearing right now. So you can win one of those. All you have to do is go on the Twitter at IFB podcast, the pin tweet. Follow the account, retweet the tweet, like it, and drop a comment about your MVP of the regular split. Thank you for all those who are participating already. Appreciate it. And it's not too late to drop in your participation as well. You have until, well, let's say 26 hours roughly, as it's already 8:30 here, um, to participate. So good luck to everyone. I'll be doing the draw, the winner draw at the end of the game, and announcement straight away. To whoever wins, I'll be trying to contact you by DM so I can send you your prize as soon as possible. So yeah, opportunity, guys. If you don't have the jersey, you can get one for free. Good luck. But to wrap it up, let's jump right into the predictions, which are as follows. So obviously, just to go back into the scores of last week, there was a total. So out of the 15 games, 7 points were scored for both between you guys and myself. So the scores, the difference in score are unchanged. Still +3 for you guys. Congratulations. Here, just to specify, obviously, the first. Sorry, what am I talking about? The scoring is 1 point for choosing the right team, 3 points for the right team and the right score. So Vitality versus SK. We're both voting Vitality. You guys have gone with 2-1, which I can understand, but I think Vitality not only is much stronger than SK, but they're getting that Mac influence. Really, you're starting to see it. Hylissang is starting to play really well. It feels like it's Mad Lions all over again. So I expect a very clean and dusted 2-0. I also think Douglas is performing really well recently. So there's definitely going to be a strong difference between both teams. Fnatic versus Giant X. I've mentioned it during the whole episode. Fnatic has to go 2-0, and Fnatic will go 2-0. Putting my money where my mouth is. Fnatic 2-0 over GX in a convincing way. Second day, Team Heretics versus BDS. I think this is probably going to be the closest games out of all four. There's a potential that it goes either way, to be honest. It really is. I still think Team Heretics have looked better over the split, and you guys agree 2-1, 2-1. So we can probably expect maybe one game that goes strongly in favor of Team Heretics, the other one BDS, and maybe a final game which is really, really close. G2 versus Mad Lions. We would expect a 2-0. I think G2, just like Fnatic, had an off day, an off week, and they're going to come in hungry, well trained, rested, and they're going to want to make a statement going into their first best of threes. So there you have it. Very quick predictions and some expected results. Maybe we'll have a surprise. I don't think so far, but as I mentioned, maybe a Team Heretics BDS, but we will see. But anyways, guys, as usual, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Leave comments below about what you think of Fnatic's performance this week, how you're expecting them to perform going into the first best of three. Maybe what you think about the addition of Hidon. Are you happy that Fnatic has more staff? Are you happy that this is the person that has joined the team? Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, and the Fnatic app. All the platforms for you guys to leave your feedback and your comments. Don't forget to follow all these accounts. The giveaway is still going on. And I'll catch you guys next week, hopefully, to talk about a Fnatic win. But until then, Always Fnatic, guys. Bye bye. Take care.